we start believing and heeding the call of the government to get vaccinated. But
Yeah,
we have to start somewhere.
we have to.
We have to start somewhere.
Once our assumption in Canada,
And 100,000 plus for senior citizen. I have already 86,000 possible future clients. Because on December 31, 2020, before the New Year, I launched the pre-registration. We have now 86,000 pre-registered.
is this through an app that you're using?
Pre-registration, like there's a website
Yes.
we created. People can pre-register if they wish to get vaccinated. They can change their mind or they can pursue their registration. And in the Manila COVID-19vaccine.com, through pre-registration, it will be easier for a person in terms of time and motion to get pre-registered. Because during the simulation, we divided individuals who are not pre-registered and individuals who are pre-registered. It only take about 6 to 8 minutes for the pre-registered. Plus the 15 to 30 minutes holding time after the vaccination, so that we can monitor.
Of course.
Same manner with non-registered walk-in, we call it walk-in. Takes about 15 to 20 minutes. Plus the holding time. So if you arrive during the vaccination day, you saw about 10 or 15 who are first in line. So it takes time.
Does that pre-registration allow you to categorize people by age and by occupation in order to hit the priority levels?
Now these are now the general public.
This is general public.
Because we have already a first guideline.
Yes.
I think it's a global guideline.
Yeah.
The vaccinate first, the medical frontliners, and all other non-medical frontlines who are in the healthcare institution. Then the senior citizen. So after all these things been done, we go to the general public.
And that's when
That's from the pre-registration. So we have a future plan already.
yeah.
So we can plan and apply the law of attrition. Maybe there will be an exponential demand, growth, no? With regard to demand. As you have said, and I also believe on what you said. If people started getting vaccination, especially with their family members, and nothing bad happened, hopefully, I believe that scientists in this world are prudent enough. Really put our people safe. That's why I always tell the people, we must continue to believe in a system. The system may not be perfect, but the system must work. We must go and work within the system. So,
Are you going to vaccinate people under the age of 18 or children?
18 about.
Like
So
18
far.
and above, so far.
It depends on the product.
Right.
I mean, sorry, the brand.
Okay, so
Because there are brands that state, okay, you can vaccinate 16 to 18, you can vaccinate 18 to X number age, or maybe senior citizen. It depends on the brand, whichever comes first.
So COVAX is mainly so far Pfizer.
Pfizer.
You've got the LGUs and the private sector are buying AstraZeneca. Are you
Yes.
part of that tripartite arrangement?
Yes, we initiated.
You initiate. So you're in
That's
Metro
right.
Manila, you're kind of a leader.
No. We just try to, trying to be ahead of the infection. And there are actionable plans that can be done before certain things may go out of control. So, like what we're doing now, when I addressed the general public in December 31, I shared the city's plan to what we call roadmap to vaccination, and creating a policy. Vaccination is the solution to the nation, so that we can go back to certain level of normalcy. So from there, there's the ABCs program. We've done all these things, and we're just thinking, how could we afford the vaccine product? And we start.
Do you have a quantity of vaccine from the AstraZeneca
Yes,
category?
800,000
800,000 for the city
doses.
now.
Doses.
Doses, of course.
On top of the national government's effort.
Right, yeah.
And what I do believe, this is just my personal assessment. I've been studying and researching that even great nations like Canada, America, and other European countries have not stated a fact that if we get vaccinated today, are we not going to get vaccinated next year? Or are we going to vaccinate 2 years thereafter? So, there's no data or facts about it. What we did is to prepare ourselves in a long haul. That's why we built our own storage facility for the long haul. Anyway, if that thing will not come, it's going to be an additional facility for our hospital.
Absolutely.
It's a long-term investment and beneficial both, whether COVID-19 will be considered as flu, as regular flu, and flu for that matter, there's a continuing vaccination about flu. So if that is the case, we're prepared. If not, it's a refrigeration. Yeah, all your vaccine can be.
Of course, you can do other vaccines there.
Yes, all other vaccines.
But there'll be future pandemics, unfortunately, I'm sure. Mr. Mayor, I just wondered about, in your vaccination plan, what vaccination centers are you going to use?
That's a good question. Usually, on a normal setting like what we did in the polio and measles and wound, we utilize our health centers. I have about more or less 40 plus health centers in the city. These are in place, structurally speaking, and with a good radius within the community. But following DOH and World Health Organization's protocol in terms of number of logistical resources that should be utilized, specific numbers, minimum numbers, about 8 personnel or professionals in one site. So I have created 60 sets of medical professionals and other allied logistical capabilities. So what we did, okay, let's start with 18 sets and put it in more open space. So we're using school grounds. And fortunately, after we simulated with school grounds, which is more efficient, with good ventilation, with natural good ventilation. Fortunately, Archbishop Bishop Pavilion, offered their school, the Catholic school. So that's about 6 to 7 additional possible future site for roll out. So more or less, we start with 18. We might end up with 26 to 25 sites as we progress. Because I think, and I may be wrong again, in the first shot, it's easy, no question. But how can I tell Ambassador MacArthur, please come on this day for your second dose? What are the prescribed period? Prescribed, allowed, tolerable period to miss the second shot. And also, asking the pharmaceutical counterpart, they give me ample time to miss the specific date for the second vaccine. Means, can be tolerated, we don't promote, we would suggest that you get vaccinated and we said that this brand you should get the second dose on the 31st day or on the 38th day, you should come. I think that's the most challenging, the those.
Absolutely.
So that's why we created a system, a unified system, that wherever you are, in those sites predetermined by the city, whether you get vaccinated here in City Hall and you want your second dose, maybe for purpose of comfort, because you're doing something in Tondo,
Yes.
you can get vaccinated there for your second dose. Because there is a system, which is a Manila COVID-19 vaccine platform, that are unified and controlled. So you will have your passport in the COVID-19 vaccine platform website of the city, wherever you are, and your vaccine, the one who's going to initiate the vaccination will know that you already got the first dose in the system.
Centralized database.
Yeah, because of the database.
Are you going to use that same database in order to issue proof that you vaccinated twice?
Yes, we have a digital passport, and we utilize old technology, which is a year 2000 technology, the QR code, which is a very universal technology, or universal and acceptable anywhere in the world. So we went back to the old technology. Just put your picture there, the date of vaccination, the brand, the lot number, and the one who vaccinated, the doctor or the nurse, no? And your picture, your address, and whether it is 2 doses or 1 dose only. Because if you get Johnson & Johnson, as far as we know, for now, only 1 dose. But that will come with the latter part of the year.
Latter part of the year.
Yes. So for now, they're working on 2 doses.
Yes.
So hopefully, that passport can be used anywhere.
And may I ask, is Quezon City and other cities in Metro Manila and the League of Cities, are you cooperating to try and synchronize them?
You know where it was launched? In Manila. Before it was called Manila.staysafe.ph.
Oh.
So when they saw that it can trace people, we shared it to the national government. Now it became part of the IAT Act for tracing restaurants. So when you see Stay Safe, it started in Manila.
Oh.
We're always ready to share some concept. We're happy that some small ideas are being documented.
We're kind of aware of that. That's a very good reason for me to meet with you today, to learn and listen to your experiences. You mentioned health centers. Canada is in development assistance. We are, there's a women's health clinic in Tondo that we are supporting. The Prime Minister Trudeau visited when he was here 3 or 4 years ago. And maybe that family clinic, is women's clinic, I suppose.
Likan.
Yes, Likan in Tondo is, and we're very focused on women and girls and their health and their empowerment is one of the areas we focus on here. Now you're doing some very good work. Fingers crossed. I think in our country currently, where frontliners are being vaccinated first, and elderly people. And at some stage, when it comes to the general public, what I read about in the Canadian press is that Canadian pharmacies, drugstores across the country, which are available right even in smaller communities in rural Canada, will be centers of vaccination. But the trick is to document it. I wanted to say, Mr. Mayor, that another reason I'm here is I'm very pleased that your city has a twinning relationship with 2 Canadian cities. With the city of Winnipeg, where the Canadian diaspora, Filipino diaspora began in the 1960s. But I should mention the first Canadian to be vaccinated in Ontario, in our biggest province, was a Filipino. Canadian,
Filipino in Canada.
So many, 1 million. And
they watch our regular weekly reporting.
I'm sure they do.
Canada.
Yeah. And you're well known in the Canadian diaspora community from your acting days.
That's not the days. 20 years ago.
But you are, I think, the youngest mayor of the state of Manila ever.
Youngest councilor.
Yeah.
Ever. I've served 9 years as a member of the city council. And the youngest vice mayor. Sir, for 9 years.
9 years, and you were Undersecretary of Social
Yes.
Development.
Before that, I was appointed by the President in the international office as Undersecretary for Social Issues.
Yes. So
Then
you've done a
I
lot.
resigned because I have to run for public office here. Go back to
And before all that, I guess during some of it, you studied in Boston, Massachusetts, which is not too far from Canada. Did you get a chance to visit?
No, I have never been to Canada.
Never been to
Never been to. In fact, what was that? I think it's Seattle.
Seattle.
I think Canada, there's a border.
There is Vancouver's nearby.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I cannot go because it was a program at the time. I was chosen to be sent by the U.S. State Department to attend to IBLP program. So I stayed in America for more than a month. We studied under IBLP. So I was sent to Oklahoma to study reusable water. Then went to Washington, Pennsylvania. And the last stop is in Seattle. So I was there for a week.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, you can go to Canada. The Philippines, they go, oh, just cross there. So, no, I'm on a tour.
Well, the Jollibee is opening more stores in Canada.
Jollibee sa Canada.
Jollibee's there already, Winnipeg and downtown Toronto, but they're opening 8 and 9 new stores,
Wow.
even with the pandemic on. And Tim Hortons is here.
Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Mr. Yap is
Who owns the Manila Hotel.
Manila Hotel and Manila Boulevard.
So I visited before lockdown because of John MacArthur's apartment there. And it's a beautiful old hotel.
Yes. General MacArthur's, have you seen the General MacArthur's room?
I have. And
That's why I asked you when the last time I met you, are you related to General MacArthur because the MacArthur family is close to the heart of our forefathers.
Yeah.
Especially the symbolic landing of the ice sculpture and iron.
And the return, yeah. Yeah, and the history is amazing, and you've got 500 years of Christianity being celebrated this year. Magellan, Lapu Lapu doing his thing. It's an amazing history.
After 500 years of history, our own Muslim cemetery. Because when you mention Lapu Lapu, that is our forefathers. Manila, before the Spanish came, is headed by the Lacans. Pantula, Suliman, Rahapargo. Those are the first tribe leaders for Muslim brothers and sisters here in Manila before the Christianity. So first time there they have a place in the city cemetery. First time. Nobody thought of it. And I said, how can we say everybody is welcome to Manila? And yet there is no place for
You should make sure the mayor of Davao knows that you're celebrating the Muslim culture. I actually walk around the city quite a bit on weekends. This weekend I walked by first time U.S. and magnificent statues in the city. The Sultan, I thought this is something from Mindanao, but it's a local Sultan.
Yes,
With a big sword,
Lapu-Lapu.
Yeah.
Lapu-Lapu.
Yeah, that's right. That's it was. It was Lapu-Lapu here, near here.
Suliman.
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 It was
Suliman.
Suliman with a big sword.
Yeah.
It's a big statue. I was walking towards the Rockwell Center and I came across this big statue. Got a picture of it actually. But then you're telling me that reflects the Muslim origins here.
Yes. That's why we continue to have, in fact, in the 80s and 70s, our mosque is a tourist spot here in Quiapo. The Golden Mosque, we call it the Golden Mosque. I hope the Muslim communities and officials should address the mosque because it used to be a tourist spot in the city. So those dignitaries from the Arab world,
Indonesia, Malaysia.
they come here and visit that area. Oh, there's so much chaos inside the you should
That's good.
change your perspective and protecting your heritage. And I'm trying to make them feel
Yeah.
that there is a level of recognition by making space available for their loved ones to be buried here
Yeah.
in the Muslim rights, heritage and tradition. Because it's very unique. All the feel that sense of pride.
Sure.
While I'm a Muslim from Mindanao, born in Manila, studied, lived, I belong to the city of Manila. Just a simple
The national capital. Yeah. A reconciliation under you.
Yes, because Manila is, I think, Manila, I can honestly say, is the most diverse in terms of demographics. You have Ilocano, Ilonggo, Cebuano, Bicolano, Pampangueño, Pangasinan, Muslim, the Muslim, the tribes, the Maranao, Maguindanao, and all other Danao, and all other tribes. So it's really quite unique. Paray, so it's literally the melting pot of the countries, culture and heritage.
Well, I hope one day, Mr. Mayor, you can visit Canada because you have that relationship to Laval, which is our second biggest city in the province of Quebec, French speaking, specializing in the Laval Technopole. So it's a concentration of high technology companies, aerospace, high tech, computer software, and so forth. That's in Eastern Canada. And the second city, your city has a citizenship relationship with is Winnipeg. And both our mayors have been there 6-7 years. And in Winnipeg, they're specializing in ecology, planting trees, and flood remediation. Laval too is an island. Laval is an island city, and Winnipeg is a city on a river that floods very often, the Red River. So they're both into, abating flood, which Jakarta, like Manila, also some flooding, but also very interested in bicycle ways, pedestrian ways. And I find as I walk around your city, you have made you've got underground tunnels now. When they're busy, Makati Avenue, for example, which are good for tourists and for inhabitants of the city to get to the city. And more and more bicycles because of the pandemic. So there might be some scope for sharing information and experiences.
Oh, I'll be happy to visit that place because, in Manila, it's a matter of policy. We've been creating since day one open green space. We're taking back those open spaces were appropriated by some unscrupulous individual in the city. So yesterday, we dedicated another open green space, about a hectare in the middle of the city. We call it the hidden garden. So in less than 2 years, based on DNS data, we have achieved about 12 hectares open green space, horizontally and vertically, because I adopted the vertical garden concept. It's been done in Australia, in America, and when I was in Europe. I saw it. It's not a rocket science. It's duplicable, and it can be done in a highly urbanized city. Full of fumes and all other things. We audit ourselves, but we cannot interfere. Because it's a machine that quantified particles in the air. We have achieved with flying colors. These busy areas with all the fumes and all other things because of the trees that we're putting in more open space.
Oh, that's the way to go.
Putting order and making it more animaliwalas, vibrant.
So I have that app on my smartphone. It's called Visual Air.
Yeah, you can check.
And I rechecked it because I lived 3 years in Jakarta, and I compared Jakarta all the time. And your air here is much better than Jakarta. And sometimes your air is as good as cities in Canada.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Maybe it's the pandemic because there's fewer people on the road, but and depending on the time of year, winter very cold right now in Canada. But in the summer, you saw that set haze and a little bit more pollution. But yeah, it's amazing.
I think it's doable
Yeah.
and achievable. You know what they're doing in Singapore, in the early times of struggle towards better country,
Yes.
they continue to build things. Roads, pavements, buildings, structures, no, aggressively. But you know where they're going now? They start destroying buildings. They start destroying buildings and making that space as open green space. Because they have a goal. And I was inspired. In 2030, they're going to achieve the zero emission goal. Across the world, whether it is water, or use of power, or really, wow, that is something.
Smart, clean cities. That's
Smart, clean
the way
city.
of the future. Yeah.
Because there is technology to clean the water through a machine. There is a way to clean the streets. There's technology on it. But there is no science yet found or discovered how to cure the air. And the only way to cure the air, to achieve clean air, is to have so much greenery.
Green is the way to go.
The green is the key. So if you put more greens, more carbon can be consumed by the plants and more fresh air for everyone. So that is our allies and next generation.
Your gift, your legacy.
To the next generation that even bamboo can grow in a highly urbanized setting. We did it in the intersection there. We're testing the area. Now the bamboo, we started it's like this. Now the bamboo is this big after 2 months.
Wow.
So it's a natural wall also.
Yeah, that's a natural wall. It's very ornamental. It's good. It's quite aesthetically
And
pleasing.
it has, based on study, it has 25% more water absorption. So in terms of flooding, which is a very normal thing, in a highly urbanized area with maybe bad sewerage system or water drainage system. So it's better if this bamboo is everywhere, can absorb more water than lesser level of water.
And mangroves absorb a lot of CO2 from the air, more than the average tree. So that's very good.
And I hope that DPS, I asked them, and I told them, okay, try to study to put bamboo in the riverside.
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to be, I told them just study it and so that
experiment.
we can absorb more water. So in terms of the rainy days, which is about 8 months of the year, there will be rain. So maybe flooding will be mitigated.
That would be
But more than all this fund aid and immediate growth, we must really address our drain system, our riverways. We must. So we must invest in time and infrastructure. Because recently, what happened to Marikina again, I feel bad for those people. They just suffered 10 years ago. The Bagyong Mundoy, no? Tama ba, no?
Yes, sir.
And recently, they just recovered after a decade of... And all things have destroyed again. So it will start coming back.
You remember the hurricane Goldie?
Yes.
Yeah, that's remember the Marikina, that's where the
Marikina.
I remember.
Yeah, I really feel bad for the city government. Because these are supposed to be a national government
Waterway.
Thus, we have to do something about
We
it.
do.
We really have to do something.
Just being an ally province, and I went to Katan Manas, the UN, to look at the damage from the typhoons and the work that's being done to prepare. But climate change disasters will get worse and worse unless we do things like you're doing, planting more trees. I can't. I have to think that I might write to the mayor of Winnipeg to say we've met, because Winnipeg is big on trees, it's big on Water management, the Red River is like a city river, it floods very often. And now the lake, Philippines, the number of Filipinos in Winnipeg is
Yeah.
very high percentage.
I think it's high time
It could be
to really redirect our infrastructure investment to a long-term solution. You know, we can, ano ba yung pagtitiis sa English? Ubusan na ako ng English. Ano yung pagtitiis?
Enduring,
We can endure
Yeah.
rough roads
Yeah.
in exchange of better riverways
Yeah. Absolutely.
for the safety of property and life.
Yeah.
I can endure
I think the insurance industry.
5 years of no new rehabilitation with regard to all funds that we can squeeze and redirect it to other things like creating more dams or water sheds.
Water management and so forth. Yeah.
Because properties will be destroyed and lives will
Yeah.
be.
The city, the government of Canada has just announced tens of billions of dollars to cities for green infrastructure. It's like build here, but with a green component, and it's largely mass transit, but it's also waterways and managing irrigation because it creates jobs, the work, construction work, but it's also, like you say, a long-term solution to a long-term problem, which is changing climate. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask you, we're foreign diplomats sitting here in Manila, and there's going to be an election next year in 2022, which for us foreigners is always exciting.
Election will be there.
National election. So, what do you think is going on there? I think by what? Absolutely. Any interest from your side?
I'm interested in running.
Good.
In Manila. No, with all honesty and assert,
Yeah.
I'm really into the plan. When pandemic came, I'm grateful to the British government, to the ambassador. I was sent to London and spoke with the Cobra, the coronavirus responsibilities. For the condition,
Yeah.
because they have assessment that on this season, there's X number of people. Anyway, so after that, we immediately came up with Manila Infectious Disease Control Center, even though without the infection yet. And we continue to build and build and build. And we were taught, go ahead of the infection with regard to numbers. In terms of capacity to hold possible patients. So we keep on building quarantine facility and quarantine facility. We were compartmentalized, the quarantine facility dedicated only for those people who are with the dialysis patient, pregnant women, lactating women, and the general public. So all my life of this term, all this 11 months, was really dedicated to focusing on flattening the curve. The only available solution to the problem is just to continue to flatten and control infection. Come December, we were told, we've been talking to pharmaceutical companies since July. That's why when you mentioned I was like, are we in the same? Can we just talking to the pharmaceutical company? Oh, we've been talking to them since July. So I can engage them as LGU. Anyway, so in December, September, we saw a survey. The data that says there will be involuntary hunger, there will be malnutrition, we call it stunting. So immediately, when that survey came out, so if it is the country's outlook, that includes Manila. Then we asked the Manila department, we pool some funds, addressing the socio-economic impact and the nutrition. And it's still running as we speak since October. October, November, December, now it's January. The malnourishment of the baby, kids, and lactating mothers, and pregnant women. And hunger are being cushioned by providing extra meal across demographic, the rich, the poor, the middle class. Because this is economic. So when it is economic, everybody's affected. So we will always wanted to be universally approaching this problem. Then we launch our next plan, which is job generation, business stability, hopefully, and create more available business, and roadmap to vaccination. So my mind is really full of busy ako sa pag-address sa Manila, problems. So we're really trying to focus ourselves
On the main challenges.
the main challenges. Because there's nothing to govern if everybody's dying. You know, Your Excellency, when we continue to suffer deaths, 1, 2 a day, maybe 5 a week, and this is a real harm. So we cannot afford to, tama ba yung word, reprehensive, yung agam-agam. We cannot do that. We have to be decisive. We have to be active. Keep on moving. And it's quite unfair for the people, generally, for politicians like me, to entertain thoughts of enriching ourselves politically, because you don't deserve it. What we should do is really focus on addressing the problem. Because there's no playbook, there's no, even Canada suffered, America suffered, British suffered. There's no playbook, and in fact, there's no amount of money. Even if you have money, you don't have vaccine. See? Yeah, there was a delay in delivery, because it's not about not having money, it's simply because there is no production. So,
I think we have more cases than you have.
in a way.
And we're like 1/3 of your population. I mean, this for the country.
So that's why I was asked so many times the same question that you asked. Yeah, it's there.
It's there, but
It's there, but
you've got to constantly hear.
that's why there was a saying here in Manila. People are talking in Manila already because we are being flooded by political tarpaulins in Manila. Why not flood us with vaccine instead of tarpaulins? A lot of people are noticing it. The tarpaulins is everywhere.
Yeah.
Sad to say.
Yeah.
Sad to say. And I think the people are fed. Ba yun, naiinis na?
Fed up.
Fed up, yeah, there's fatigue, so all around the world.
Yeah.
So, capital city of Canada, Ottawa, has been locked down for 6 weeks. My family is there. You can only go out of the apartment to shop for food or for drugs, or walk the dog. That's it. You stay in your apartment. In the middle of winter, it's cold, it's dark.
That's why we are taking much risk
Yes.
because we have to be aggressive with the situation. Because comparatively, in the region, Philippines is the most hurt in terms of economy. So in our case, as a city, we are aggressive because we're creating more activities in an open space, creating opportunity for jobs and small businesses just to sell. An opportunity to make a
Go
living.
to our markets, for example, on weekends. Yeah.
And at the same time, we always call the people to be responsible. You're old enough to understand, and 11 months taught us very well how to get infected.
You've got much more discipline in mask wearing since March last year than in Canada. In fact, your positivity rate is lower than in Canada, in the NCR. You're at 1.02 on the R1.
Mhm.
So if you get below 1, you're starting to win the battle. You're talking about NCR. So the economic hit you've taken compared to other countries, in a way on the health side, you're saving lives.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable.
Yes.
Do you think there's a
There
risk?
must be commerce.
Yeah.
There must be an opportunity
Yes.
for everyone, because that's the best way to sustain food and security.
Foundation.
There is more problems if we neglect this, which will be more uncontrollable. And you don't want to put yourself in your city in a chaotic situation because of lack of food. So we're very, sort of saying we're really trying to manage the risk instead of avoiding it. And I'm grateful to God and I'm grateful to the people of Manila. For 4 months now, sustained at 300, more or less, margin of infection.
Including through Christmas, New Year's.
Including,
There was a risk of
yes, and festivities.
Yeah.
Oh my God. In Manila, there's so much.
So for Easter, the trick was to maintain that flat, or maybe way
Yes,
down.
that's our goal.
Yeah.
Not to, yes, there is infection, no question. As long as lesser death, hopefully, and not growing out of proportion against our capacity to withstand or to hold patients. So far, at our level, in our hospital, about 23%. In our quarantine facility, 5%.
They're returning Filipinos, OFWs returning to.
We offer free testing in the airport, even including during the vacation. All those Manileños who went to the provinces, we offered them free vaccination for the returnees.
Right.
And we found 19 patients out of 1,000 tests. Can you imagine if we didn't offer?
Yeah.
And we continue to offer drive-through testing.
Yeah.
Any John Doe's and Mary usually get tested if you were under these 2 categories, probable and suspected. The basis of that is there is a rule that we apply going to be a probable or suspect. But in our case, we went to another one, buying peace of mind. The anxiety of a person's fear that she thinks that I think I'm infected.
Yeah.
Because I feel something.
Biology.
So you just go there,
Go
buy
there.
peace of mind, it's free anyway.
Yeah.
About 4,000 pesos, 2,600 pesos services, it's free. To any person. Any person. That's why it's a drive-through. So whether you're Manilans or non-Manilans, if you don't feel that or not comfortable about it, more activities of testing. So we do home service. Yes,
I've had
we do home
testing at home.
service.
Yeah, you tested me.
For free.
Yeah.
Everything is for free.
Yeah.
As much as possible, as long as you can do it.
Mr. Mayor, do you think the pandemic, my last question, I went over, because your time, you're a busy mayor, is there any risk that the pandemic might lead to the national election being delayed by a year?
I'm sorry?
Is there a risk the pandemic
No.
will delay the national election next year by a
No.
year? No. The Constitution will deal, no?
No.
Yeah.
No. Historically,
Yes.
Filipinos wanted to elect our leaders on a specific time. Any person who will cause the delay the election will suffer greatly politically. And even I think the military will not allow it. I think the military will always continue to listen to the Constitution. That is our compass,
Yeah.
or North Star.
Yeah.
So
And by spring, by this time next year, we hope the vaccinations will have
I think if we achieve our timeline,
Yes.
but by the end of the year, we'll 70%. That's more than enough from the Dr. Fauci's concept, 60%,
Yeah.
or to achieve the vertical herd immunity. I don't know the words in the scientific side, medical word.
Yeah.
But most likely, and we will have lesser severe cases.
Exactly. And there'll be therapeutics as well, and the frontliners will be safe, and the old people will be,
So it will become a normal,
no question.
modified flu.
Yeah.
Mm.
And school will reopen?
Yes. So I'm approving face-to-face school already in the city.
And this is
Only for medical students because, especially the graduating class, no? The logic behind is, if we continue to allow online studies for our medical students, they will not graduate. They will not take the board because there are subjects needs physical presence. Okay? Now, if that is the case, then a year of our generation will have a vacuum of producing medical frontliners.
Yeah.
And nowadays, medical frontliners is the most, if I may put it in right perspective, the right word, most best commodity,
Yes.
best asset of any government.
So face-to-face for doctors and nurses?
Yes, and other allied courses, except for some that are not, doesn't need any.
Like pharmacists?
So, midwife, nurses, doctors, 40 years. We open it in here in Manila, as long as they follow. There's a protocol, and I think
No, that
it's
makes sense.
a doable. It's a doable thing.
Is that for the city only or nationally?
Now, city of Manila.
Oh, so others will probably follow.
I don't know with them. Maybe they're going to us. How are we going to?
Yeah.
And we give them free testing
Yeah.
for the students because testing costs money. And if there's one good thing, and I'm grateful to God that we still have more capacity to test.
Yeah.
We have not utilized, unlike in the early time, we have not utilized fully of our machine's capacity to X number of tests every day. So which is good.
What's also good is your
Good
number of
problem.
ICU beds and ventilators, there's less pressure on the hospital system than back last spring. That's a sign of success as well.